Welcome everyone to another webinar by Port Jackson Securities. I'm the host for today. My name is Jonah, and today we're joined with Paul by Far East Gold. How are you going, Paul?
Hey, Jonah. Thanks very much. Good.
Just before we start, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them. There'll be some time at the end. We'll get them answered. And this is just, more importantly, information purposes only and not to be taken as any sort of advice. But handing it over to Paul, take it away.
Thanks, Jonah. Thanks very much to Port Jackson Securities for having us along today to talk to you, and thanks everyone for coming along and listening to our story about Far East Gold. For those of you who don't know Far East Gold, we are a junior gold and copper exploration company. We have a portfolio of 6 advanced copper and gold projects. 3 are located in Indonesia, 3 in Australia. Across the portfolio, over $15 million has been spent on exploration, most of it before we came along. We were able to acquire some quite advanced projects. We have a very experienced board and management team. Between our board, we've raised more than $1 billion for other Indonesian mining operations. So we have a track record of success both in Australia and Indonesia in mine identification, development and operation. So included on my board and one of my co-founders is Justin Woyla, who's a non-exec director of Far East Gold, but he's also the managing director of Nickel Industries. And Nickel Industries have a market cap of circa $3 billion, and they're a dividend issuing company. And since he's come along and listed his company in Nickel Industries on the ASX, they've raised it's more than $1 billion just for their mine operations in Indonesia, and they've turned their company into the top 10 nickel producing company in the world. So we do have a good understanding of what it's like to identify opportunities in the resource sector in Indonesia and then turn them into productive assets. All of our assets, we think, are located in world-class gold producing regions, and more than 50,000 meters of drilling has been completed across our portfolio today. It's very advanced. We listed on the 28th of March last year, so tomorrow it's our 1-year anniversary of being listed on the ASX. We raised just under $12 million at our IPO, and in December last year, we did a placement and an SPP and raised just over $6.5 million. About 230 million shares on issue and a market cap of just over $70 million. So all of our projects are progressing really well towards advanced exploration, and we are working on that and permitting for our projects. We've completed phase 1 drill programs since we've had these projects in both our Woyla project in Indonesia and our Hill 212 project in Queensland. This is a snapshot of Far East Gold. So 230 million shares on issue. As of Friday, we had a share price at 32 cents with a market cap of 73.5 million. Our cash position at the end of December was 10.4 million, and based on our quarter burn for the December quarter, that gave us about 4 quarters of cash in the bank. Our 52-week range for shares, our low of 23 cents and a high of 76.5 cents. So we had quite a good period of growth towards the back end of last year. We have 153 odd million shares which are tradable, and about 77 million shares which are on escrow until March next year. Those shares are primarily the founders, directors shares, and also the shares for 2 of our vendors who vended in one of our projects, and that's Rajawali Corporation and Alpha HPA with ASX code A4N. They are our 2 largest shareholders, and they are also escrowed until March 2024. Top 20 shareholders hold just over 60% of the company, and the board of directors, a lot of skin in the game. We hold just under 20% of the company. This is a map that shows an overview of where our 6 projects are located. The 3 projects in Indonesia are situated on the Sunda Magmatic Arc, and our 3 projects in Queensland are situated in Queensland. 2 are located in the Drummond Basin, and 1 is located in the Connors Arc. This table here gives you a bit of an overview of our approach to our portfolio of projects. We've specifically taken a portfolio approach where we have quite a broad cross-section of projects at different stages of their life cycle in terms of being an exploration and a near-term production project. We have in Queensland, for instance, Bluegrass Creek, which is an early stage exploration project. Exploration has been done, but it's not yet been drilled. And then we have up in Indonesia, we have Trenggalek, which is licensed to build a mine, and we could theoretically build a mine on that tomorrow. And we have Wonogiri, which has a 1.15 million ounce JORC resource estimate on it. So quite a broad cross section of projects at different stages of their life cycle. And also we specifically took a strategic decision to have 3 very advanced projects in Indonesia, coupled with 3 very interesting and highly prospective, less advanced projects in Queensland. And we did that because if ever there were any operational or jurisdictional issues which may have challenged any one of our projects from progressing and applying capital to create value and continue on news flow, we had other projects to turn to bring forward. So we've specifically approached our portfolio in a way which gives us the opportunity to have multiple shots on goal, for want of a better description, multiple opportunities to create value and retain value for our shareholders. A question we get asked a lot is why Indonesia? There has been, if anyone's ever followed some of the junior exploration companies that have gone up and tried in Indonesia, there's been quite a few people have gone up and had false starts. We believe we pulled together a board and a management team who can take advantage of the opportunities that Indonesia presents. A lot of people don't fully understand the wealth of opportunities that exist up in Indonesia, and it has its challenges, but it also has its benefits. So factors that we think impact the growth opportunities in Indonesia. In 2020, the Indonesian government simplified its mining laws. It's a very open investment climate for foreign direct investment. And in 2020, the Indonesian government took out of the hands of the provisional and local governments a lot of the decision-making powers associated with mining projects and put them in the hands of the federal government mines department. And we believe we've been a beneficiary of that because we've seen a lot of our projects that were stalled progress on the back of simplification and streamlining of these regulations associated with taking mining projects forward. Indonesia has a healthy economy, projected to increase above 5% annually in terms of GDP growth. It's also projected to be the world's 4th largest economy by 2035. Now, it's impossible for a country to be the 4th largest economy in the world without getting in place a lot of the structural levers that are required to efficiently operate as a society. It has the 4th largest population, 282 million people, a very large young workforce, median age is 29. And what's really exciting for us, it's a low-cost environment for operations. It's the 6th largest gold producer in the world. It's the 11th largest copper producer in the world. And it's consistently operating and producing gold and copper at remarkably low cost compared to global averages. And it's host to some substantially large mineral resources. So you can see a 7th largest gold reserve in the world, 7th biggest copper reserve in the world. So a combination of really interesting factors, a growing economy, an agile young workforce, a low cost of operation, and a healthy environment for investment. That's what we think, coupled with our experience in working in Indonesia. Across our board, we have between us between 15 to 35 years experience working in Indonesia and Australia in the resource sector. We think we bring the right team together to take advantage of these opportunities. This is a snapshot of where our projects are. We have one project, Woyla, in Indonesia, which is located in the northern section of Sumatra, and 2 projects, Wonogiri and Trenggalek, which are located on the island of Java. They're all located on the Sunda Magmatic Arc. The Sunda Magmatic Arc hosts some world-class gold and copper projects. Just near our Trenggalek project, Tujuh Bukit, that has a resource of nearly 30 million ounces of gold and 19 billion pounds of copper. Next to our Woyla project is Matabe, over 6 million ounces of gold. It's producing 300,000 ounces of gold a year at an all-in sustaining cost of about $450 an ounce, just to give you an example of the scale of some of these projects and also the opportunity that exists in terms of low-cost operations. Our flagship project across our 6 projects is Woyla. The reason why we like Woyla and the reason why we're spending more than half of our exploration budget on Woyla is because we believe it to represent the best opportunity to create value for our shareholders. This project is 24,000 hectares in size, so it's district scale. We hold the form of tenure. It is a 6th generation contract of work. Contracts of work are a particular type of tenure where the Indonesian government enters into a contract with a company and gives them the sole right to explore, mine, process, refine, and sell any minerals within a tenement. There are only 20 or so contracts of works for minerals left in Indonesia. The very first one that was ever issued was to Freeport, which is the 3rd largest gold producing mine in the world. So it's a very strong form of tenure, and we hold this one as a contract of work, and it's one of only a handful left. This project was previously explored by Barrick Gold and then by Newcrest. They did a lot of early stage exploration, but they were never able to drill the project. Working on the back of the work that Barrick and Newcrest have done, we've gone and taken the defined strike length that they had defined was about 6,000 meters, and done more mapping and more analysis and more. We've actually done 37 kilometers of geophysics survey work, and we've defined 13 kilometers of low sulfidation gold-bearing epithermal veins. We completed towards the end of last year the phase 1 scout drilling program. That was 4,600 meters, and we focused on 2 prospect areas within the project for that phase 1 program, and we've now commenced our phase 2 drill program. So we were really excited about what came out of our phase 1 drilling. Yeah, we had some great assay results, peak assay of 78 grams per ton for gold and 631 grams per ton for silver at our Rekrinti prospect area. Anak Perak also returned high-grade gold, nearly 25 grams a ton, and assays from rock samples taken at surface and from artisanal workings at the other epithermal prospect areas are still delivering bonanza-grade gold, 63 grams a ton in the lower Impe and 76 grams a ton in the lower Rek. So we are in the process of doing a phase 2 scout drilling program, doing field mapping, doing access track development in lower Impe. Now, the reason why Newcrest liked this project and the reason why we like this project is they saw lots of similarities to one of the prospect areas at Lower Impe to their project that they had also in Indonesia called Gosowong. Now, Gosowong was an over 6 million ounce gold project that averaged grades of greater than 20 grams a ton. Newcrest saw lots of structural similarities, crustiform, coliform banding, gingaroo banding. We've seen the same, not just at surface, but also from the cores that we've taken out in the phase 1 and phase 2 drill program so far. So we're really excited about the similarities between Woyla and the characteristics that existed in Newcrest's Gosowong mine. The Woyla project, 13 kilometers of epithermal vein systems. They situated in 4 distinct prospect areas: Anak Perak, Rekrinti, Lower Impe, and Lower Rek. The drilling program that we did, the phase 1, focused on 2 of them, Anak Perak and Rekrinti. The phase 2 scout drilling program is going to be focusing on Anak Perak, Rekrinti, and also adding a Lower Impe. The phase 2 drill program is also doing a 5,000 meter resource delineation program around one of the holes that we discovered in Rekrinti. All of the vein systems will remain open at strike. Really interestingly, it's possible once we do more mapping that the vein systems between Rekrinti, Lower Impe, Lower Rek may all join together. So the strike may increase from 13 kilometers to something substantially larger. The map on the right-hand side is a map of Woyla, and you can see the 4 different epithermal vein systems. You can also see a Burong porphyry. So the project doesn't only have substantial lengths of epithermal vein systems, it also has identified 3 porphyry target areas. Burong is quite distinct. We've actually done field mapping. We've seen outcropping porphyry. The other 2 to the north, we've only identified through aeromag analysis of magnetic anomalies for porphyry. So what's interesting about that is Woyla is a contract of work. So when we start production, we have a 30-year tenure that we can extend by 2 10-year options. So we have a 50-year life of mine. So not only do we have the substantial epithermal vein system, which is showing very high-grade gold, we have 3 porphyry areas which we can continue to explore and potentially develop in the future to take advantage of this 50-year lifetime that this mine has. You'll also see on the right-hand side in the map of our contract of work area a little postage stamp. That's an overview of the size of the Gosowong project, and to give you an example of the scale of the vein systems in Woyla compared to Gosowong. You'll also see an aerial photo insert. That shows the Gosowong mine layout. Now, Gosowong had 3 mine areas that combined to be the 6 million ounces. Now, the one in the middle was its most productive one. It was nearly 4 million ounces at greater than 20 grams a ton. Now, what our geologists have found really interesting is the textural and structural features that we're seeing in the Anak Perak prospect is very similar to Gosowong's mine on the left-hand side. a big, long, consistent epithermal vein system of consistent mineralizations. And that Perak, we've got a 4.7 kilometer strike length mapped. We've drilled about 1.2 kilometers of that. And we're seeing quartz veins that are very consistent, ranging from 15 to 50 meters wide. Very similar to what was seen in Gosowong on the left-hand side mine. Rekrinti is very different. It's about 8 separate en echelon veins, so lots of layered veins. That's where we're seeing our high grade gold, but it's quite challenging in terms of trying to stitch the veins together and figure out where that, how the resource works and how the high grade intercepts we've seen interact with other areas of the vein system. A lower Mpe, which is basically the joining point between the middle of Anak Perak and Rekrinti, is where we're about to start drilling. We've actually moved a drill rig onto that site earlier in this week. As part of our scout drilling program for phase 2, and we expect to be drilling there before the end of the month. So we're very excited about being able to drill in a lower Mpe, because if we continue to see similarities to Gosowong, we're hoping that that's where we might find the sweet spot where these two distinct vein systems intersect. About Woyla, one of the things that we were able to do, and one of the reasons why Barrick and Newcrest couldn't mine it, is about 22,000 hectares of the 24,000 hectare tenement was situated in land that was designated as forest designated land. Now, we couldn't do any advanced exploration, drilling or mining on that until we first had a thing called a PIPIB granted by the Indonesian government, which we were able to get in August 2021. And then we were able to, from getting that application granted, we were able to ask for an environmental authority to do mining, to do drilling, which we were granted in May last year, which freed up the path for drilling to occur for the first time. We then needed one more permit, which was a borrow use license, which we received in September last year. So the example I said before about Barrick and Newcrest had it, Barrick and Newcrest liked it. What we've been able to do since we've come along, we've been able to change the forest designation to enable drilling and mining to occur for the first time, get an environmental authorization and approval to enable drilling to happen, and then get a land use right to drill over government-owned land, which covers all of our 4 prospect areas. Now, it's not so much that we're smart and we've been in Indonesia and know how to do work there. It's a manifestation of the simplification that the Indonesian government's put in place with its mining laws, and their approach to try and encourage foreign direct investment in these sorts of activities. So it's probably a combination of right place, right time, right opportunity, and we're able to take all of the area where we wish to drill and get the authority to drill across and actually mine across all of that area. So our phase 1 drilling results, we were really excited about what happened in phase 1 drilling. We drilled 33 diamond holes across 2 of our prospect areas. Anak Perak, we tested 1.2 kilometers of the 4.7 kilometer of strike length with 20 holes. And in Rekrinti, we did 13 holes testing 4 of the 7 epithermal veins that we've identified in that prospect area. In our opinion, 3 of the holes returned to discovery holes, showing potential for economic mineralization. In Anak Perak, we hit 10.75 meters at 3.2 grams per ton gold, which peaked at 24.91 grams per ton gold. In Rekrinti hole 3, we intercepted 2 meters at 30.9 grams per ton gold, and which included 1 meter at 59 grams per ton gold. And our third and probably our most exciting discovery hole was Rekrinti hole 4, which on a gold equivalent basis returned 30 meters at 3.43 grams per ton gold equivalent from 98 meters. That also included the 78 grams per ton gold and 631 grams per ton silver intercept in hole 4. So on the back of those results, we were encouraged by hole 4, so much so that we've decided to do a resource delineation program, which is a 50-meter step out program from discovery hole 4. And you can see the picture on the right hand side showing the Agam vein, which is one of the 7 veins. So we are doing a resource delineation, stepping up from 1 hole on 1 vein in one of our prospect areas. It's doing 5,000 meters of diamond drilling. And we announced last week that one of the holes, 50 meters to the right of hole 4, intercepted visible electrum and gold in the core samples. And you can see the photo below that shows the visible electrum and visible gold that we identified in the core sample. Now, we know that's gold and silver, and we know it's visible because we were able to identify using our XRF, handheld XRF spectrometer. The numbers there, they are what we saw on the XRF gun, but our experience is that they aren't reliable, and we won't know what they are until we've actually got the assay done. But we do know that we are seeing gold and silver, visible gold, in this core sample 50 meters from our discovery hole in phase 1. Phase 2, we're doing 5,000 meters of scout drilling, Anak Perak, Rek Rinti, and the Lower Mpe. We're still looking for the sweet spot. We're still looking with what we're seeing in terms of the high grade samples at the surface, the IP geophysics work that we've done, the trench and sampling surface, the aeromag work. We know that that there's a sweet spot to be found, and we're still out there looking for that. And that's why we're really excited about doing the drilling in Lower Mpe for the first time. So we're out there targeting high grade systems. A Lower Mpe, when we were down there doing the final mapping for our drill hole locations about a week and a half ago, making sure that the pads were cut in, we identified visible gold in samples taken from artisanal workings in a Lower Mpe. So the recent mapping showing lots of indication that a Lower Mpe is going to be very interesting when we get the drilling up and running there. Our second project in Indonesia, even though most of our focus is Woyla, we do have a portfolio approach. And our second project in Indonesia is Trenggalek. It's a potential gold, copper, porphyry, and epithermal project. It's nearly 13,000 hectares. It's currently tenure as an IUPOP, which is an operation and production mining license. We think it's highly prospective for epithermal and porphyry-related gold-based metal deposits. What we like about it, the Indonesian government has been so supportive of us in taking this project forward. It's identified by the Indonesian Mines Department as one of their top 3 priority greenfield gold projects. One of the reasons why they like it, one of the reasons why we like it, one of the reasons why I previously explored by Anglo-American why they liked it, is it has lots of similarities, both structurally, texturally, geophysically, to the Tujuh Bukit deposit situated to the east of it. As I mentioned before, Tujuh Bukit, 30 million ounces of gold, 19 billion pounds of copper. Trenggalek, similar size volcanic center to Tujuh Bukit, about 5.5 kilometers across. Lots of historic exploration, nearly 18,000 meters of drilling, mostly focused on the epithermal area. And very little, if any, drilling was done in the porphyry prospect areas. One of the challenges that Anglo had is their favorite porphyry prospect was constrained by a forest designation. We've been able to take that forest designation and change it. We're in the process of getting the land use permits to drill in that area. We're also in the process of getting the ministerial approval to transfer ownership into our name. So we're not going to go out and do any drilling in this tenement until we have finalized ownership of this transfer into our name. We expect that to be happening in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We lodged the application towards the end of last year. This gives you a snapshot of where most of the work was done. It was the Central Buluroto prospect areas. You can see that there are very high grade gold in the epithermal area, outcropping gold peaking at 149 grams per ton, but even the intercepts, nearly 10 meters at 4.5 grams a ton gold. There's quite a great little mine opportunity here with the work that's been previously done across the Central Buluroto epithermal prospect areas. But the reality is only about 10 to 20% of the vein system has been properly explored. So it's only about 650 meters of the 5 to 10 kilometers of strike length that exists across this area has been properly explored. The Buluroto, as I mentioned, Central Buluroto, they effectively joined together. Buluroto is beside Central as a prospect area. 5 holes were done there. It also intercepted good grade golds, 13.7 meters at 3.2 grams. But it also intercepted what we believe to be the edge of a porphyry system, 24 meters at 0.2% copper and 16 grams moly from 138 meters. Now, this is just indicative of the potential of this whole prospect and whole tenement for porphyry targets. Now, Sumber Benning, which is which we're targeting and getting the borrow use license to drill now that we've resolved the downgrade of the forest area. It was Anglo's top priority prospect area. It's a similar geological setting to Tujuh Bukit. It has high sulfidation gold copper, porphyry gold copper potential, and our spectral mapping has shown an acrylic alteration of between 3 kilometers across by 2 kilometers wide. It's never been drilled, so we're excited to be the first people to go and drill this particular tenement. So you can see the map on the right-hand side showing the alteration spectra, and you can see the pictures below showing a comparison of the textural characteristics from samples taken from Sumber Benning to the top and samples taken from the Tujuh Bukit project to the bottom. So very encouraged about what we can see here. Our third project in Indonesia is Wonogiri. This is where it all started for us. Wonogiri was a project which was sitting there not being taken forward, and we approached the people who owned it and asked for them to sell it to us in exchange for shares when we listed on the ASX, which is why our top two shareholders are Woyla Corporation and Alpha H4N. They were the owners of this project and they weren't working on it. It was a great project, sitting there doing nothing, nearly 22,000 meters of drilling. That identified a sub-outcropping porphyry deposit. It remains open at depth, but it also has adjacent epithermal veins which haven't really been properly explored. We've gone and reprocessed the aeromag work. We've also looked at reprocessing the core and done further metallurgical tests. Great recovery, 91% gold recovery, simple carbon leach flow sheet. We're in the process of updating an external scoping study. There was previously a scoping study done on this by the vendors back in 2016, back when gold was $1,350 an ounce and copper was $5,000 a ton, $5,000 a ton. We've put in obviously current prices for gold and copper. Really excited about what we're seeing in terms of the potential for a relatively low cost near-term mine in terms of development. Fairly straightforward flow sheet, fairly straightforward throughput in terms of a simple near-term mine development. Why we're comfortable, nearly a million ounces of gold, over half of it measured and indicated in terms of JORC resource estimate, 190 million pounds of copper. Also potential for additional exploration to prove up whether there's an extension of the intrusive corridor for porphyry or whether there's an opportunity for additional scout drilling within the epithermal veins to add more feed for the process mill when the mine gets going. This map gives you like a cross section of the sub-outcropping porphyry, and you can see the red area. That's the high grade gold, above 0.5 gram to 1 gram a ton gold for the porphyry area, and you can see a little blob on the bottom indicates there's a high grade section to the bottom which remains open at depth. Really interesting project. Lots of large intercepts, 222 meters at a gram a ton. Lots of 70s, 100s, 289 meters at 0.5 gram a ton. So relatively low grade, but very large consistent intercepts, and a lot of consistent intercepts that it's very shallow. So it makes for a very simple mine plan. It makes for a very relatively simple and low capex development opportunity. Our 3 projects in Queensland, as I mentioned before, we made a strategic decision to take 3 projects in Queensland to counterbalance our 3 very advanced projects in Indonesia if there was ever any operational jurisdictional challenges when taking these projects in Indonesia forward. So we have 3 relatively early stage compared to the Indonesian projects, but they aren't early stage. 2 of the projects have been drilled, and we've recently defined an exploration target for our Mount Clark West project, which in my opinion is probably our most interesting project in Queensland. So Mount Clark West, it's a potential gold copper porphyry project. It's situated about 20 kilometers from the mining services town of Nebo. It has power, water, basically rail running past its front door. It's well located if ever you were to build a large scale bulk tonnage porphyry project. We announced in November last year that we had defined a JORC exploration target. So it's a maiden exploration target for this project. The numbers are substantial. 400 million tonnes at 0.4% copper equivalent to 650 million tonnes at 0.6% copper equivalent. There's been historic drilling over the project before we came along. 4 diamond drill holes totaling nearly 1,300 meters. There was previous IP, 8 kilometers of IP work. There was about 1,000 geochemical samples taken. We've come along and done more soil sampling. We've done 21 line kilometers of geophysics survey work, which is a deep ground penetrating radar, which we did depths. We had readings of depths of greater than 700 meters. Now, on the back of the work that had previously done, the work that we've done, we're comfortable to define this exploration target. Now, we've defined a drill program to test our hypothesis for the exploration target, and we're currently in the process of negotiating with the 2 farmers to get access rights to drill on their properties. The rights we have under the Queensland legislation is we either enter into a conduct and compensation agreement with the farmers to pay them compensation for drilling, or we go to the land court and get a determination on how much compensation we have to pay them. Our plan is to do this by negotiation if we can. Otherwise, we'll go to the land court and get a determination, because this project is very interesting in terms of its scale and size and needs to be drilled to prove this up. As I mentioned, potential for large-scale copper, gold, moly, porphyry deposit. You can see these pictures on the right-hand side. The far right-hand side, that's an indication of the diamond drill hole intercepts. Diamond hole number 2, 104 meters of 0.1% copper, which included 14 meters of 0.23% copper. So we know that there's copper, gold, molybdenum there. We've seen from the geochem work and from the geophysics work the potential for a porphyry system or systems. So the 3D RTP magnetic image showing the chargeability, the green chargeability areas from the MIMDAS survey, you can see 3 rectangular boxes. Now, our main hypothesis is that there are 3 distinct porphyry systems in this area. And in terms of scale, you're talking sort of 1.5 to 2 kilometers long by sort of 500 meters wide. So these are very large scale porphyry systems. We will test this hypothesis through drilling. And if it's either potentially 3 separate porphyry fingers in those 3 rectangular areas, or possibly 1 large single porphyry system. But our preferred hypothesis is that there's 3 separate porphyry systems, like 3 fingers arising up from the ground. Our other 2 projects in Queensland, Hill 212, it's also been drilled before we came along. 9 holes have been drilled for 730 meters. We've gone and done 24 line kilometers of geophysics works. It's nearly 2,000 hectares. It's an exploration permit located in the Drummond Basin. There's been identified 10 kilometers of structure. So that's not 10 kilometers of vein, it's a 10 kilometer structure, of which 2.5 kilometers has been mapped. It's open in multiple directions. On the back of the work that had been done, the previous 9 holes and the geophysics we had carried out, we went and did an 11-hole RC drill program that we finished in September, October last year. We did 2,100 meters of drilling. So there's been nearly 3,000 meters of drilling done on this project so far. And what it's identified is a very interesting epithermal vein system and a vein structure. And we're seeing sulfidation epithermal veins at depths of 350 meters. Our hypothetical model is that this matches something like a Viranancy model, which is the Pajingo project located a bit to the northeast. Our next steps are to do further mapping of the defined structure, identify some more geophysics and chem work, and then define a phase 2 drill program. Bluegrass Creek is our early stage project. It directly adjoins Hill 212. We've done some asterospectral survey work, which indicates that the structural corridor we've defined in Hill 212 extends up into Bluegrass Creek. Coupled with the previous work done by BHP and Dominion Mining in Battle Mountain, we can see that the characteristics we're seeing in Hill 212 extend into Bluegrass Creek, and we're also seeing similar characteristics, and this is confirmed by independent geo report when we listed by the measure group, similar to what they're seeing in Krakow, Yandan, and Pajingo. The other thing that's exciting for us about Bluegrass Creek and Hill 212 is it directly adjoins the Mount Coolum project. Now, the Mount Coolum project is owned by GBM Resources, but they, in November last year, entered into a farm-in agreement with Newcrest. Now, Newcrest is about to spend $25 million over the next 6 years to earn 75% of the Mount Coolum project. So our direct adjoining neighbour is now being explored by Newcrest, who intends to spend $25 million on that exploration program. So it's very exciting for us. that the Drummond Basin is being recognised as an area of potential for good epithermal gold silver quartz systems. One of the things we're proud of as a small company is in March last year, we were granted permission to join the United Nations Global Compact. Now, in doing that, we became the first listed junior exploration company in Australia or Indonesia that has voluntarily agreed to align our business strategy and operations with the UN Global Compact and its 10 principles on human rights, labour rights, the environment, and anti-corruption. Now, if you look at the principles that we have to adhere to, they seem self-evident, and I find it quite remarkable that other companies haven't done such a thing as put their hand up to join the UN Global Compact. What we like about it is we get access not just to plenary sessions, roundtable sessions, and see exemplars from larger companies, what they're doing. We also have to produce an annual report to the UN, which is publicly available, on how we are standing up our business strategy and operations in compliance with the 10 principles. So at the moment, we're in the process of preparing our first annual report, which for us is a good way for a company of our size to start down the path of formal ESG reporting. So as a summary in terms of our projects, our 3 in Indonesia, very advanced, very interesting. Woyla, in our opinion, before we came along, one of the best undrilled prospects in Southeast Asia, which we're now drilling. Potential to host Gosowong style bonanza mineralization. Then we have Trenggalek, similar size volcanic center to Tujuh Bukit, multiple prospects, most undrilled, a lot of database of work to work on, licensed to build a mine tomorrow. Wonogiri, million-plus ounce JORC resource, open at depth, near-term development potential, high-grade porphyry prospects. Our focus is taking the current exploration permit and upgrading it to a mining and operation permit. And then we have 3 very exciting, highly prospective projects in the Drummond Basin and Conazar, which have excellent prospectivity for large-scale porphyry epithermal projects. And we're located in an emerging gold area with Newcrest as directly adjoining tenements doing exploration. So that's Far East Gold.
Excellent, Paul. Thanks very much. It sounds like you've gone above and beyond other previous companies, maybe with some of those projects. And a lot for Far East Gold to take full advantage on for the next 50 years. So that's great. Just a question here from one of our attendees. When will you provide preliminary modelling on a Woyla resource?
Yeah, so we're hoping that we, if things go well and we get the right results from the step out drill program, the modelling and the JORC resource will be in the next few months. But if we don't get the right results and we need to expand it, then obviously we'll be holding back the modelling and making sure that we get a meaningful JORC resource for our maiden JORC resource.
Yep, no, that's good. And you mentioned that the Woyla geology is similar to the Gosowong project. How so, and what makes you think this?
Okay, so one of the things which you don't regularly see in projects is consistent gingroo banding. And gingroo banding is basically dark bands of silver and sulfides of high grade. There were examples of gingroo banding at surface that we were able to identify. We've seen gingroo banding at depth from the core, which is really exciting for us. So that's a really good similarity that both Gosowong had, and also Hishikari, which is one of the world's most successful gold mines. I think it was 8 million ounces, about 40 grams a ton. They both had gingroo banding prevalent. The crustiform and coliform banding that we're seeing in our samples also very similar, but it's another couple of actually other characteristics. If you look at the way in which the vein systems are intersecting in Gosowong, we've seen a very similar set of characteristics from the 2 veins areas, the 2 prospect areas that we've done the exploration in phase 1. We're seeing a very consistent quartz vein system, basically a long quartz highway and an Parak, which is very similar to what was in Gosowong. And in Rekrinti, lots of layered veins, which is also very similar to Gosowong. And we're hoping that the point where they intersect, Aloha Mpe, which we're about to drill, is similar to Gosowong. That's our hope, because that's where Gosowong found their 4 million ounce deposit. Now, just to put in context the scale, like I've mentioned that we have 13 kilometers of strike. The high grade area that in Gosowong occurred over about a 250-meter section of that of their strike. So it really is about finding that right section of the vein system. But we're seeing all of the hallmarks indications that there's something of high grade here.
Yeah, good. And maybe just a bit more of a lighter question. Obviously, gold being used as a hedge a bit at the moment. Just what are your thoughts on the gold price?
Wow, that's a good question. Given where it's currently at, I think there's obviously been a lot of support because it is considered to be a safe haven in uncertain times. There are people who think that once it breaks through that psychological barrier of 2,000, it might have a bit of a run. I don't know the answer to that. There are so many uncertain things happening at the moment. The US dollar, being probably stronger than it should be, I think is one of the things that's keeping gold down. If the US dollar was probably back to where it should be, gold price would probably run a bit more.
Yeah. No, yeah, great thoughts there. Perfect. Well, look, I think that's all the questions we have for today. Is there any last words you would like to leave the investors with?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for taking the time today to come and listen to our story. We believe that we've pulled together a remarkable portfolio of projects which have the ability to deliver potentially 2 tier 1 projects in Trenggalek and Woyla. And a company of our size, we are well funded to take these projects forward in the near term with a lot of upside in the long term. So I really appreciate you guys coming and listening, and I hope you see the value in our business the way we do.
Yeah, excellent. I'm sure they got a lot out of that presentation. Just wrapping up here, thanks very much, Paul and Forest God for that presentation, and everyone else in attendance. I've been your host, Jonah, and this has been another webinar from Port Jackson Securities. Hopefully you all come to the next one. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers.